Welcome to Week in Horror.
You gotta be fucking kidding.
The only podcast that will feed your horror need.
The need to feed.
With JL.
Yeah, I'm a fucking masochist. I'll watch that shit.
Eugene.
Somebody has to be the sex symbol. I'm sorry.
Alex.
Shit, I just demonetize this forever.
And Johnny O.
How do you like that shit? Got halfway through the monologue before unmuting myself. Golly, it's one of them fucking days.
With industry guests.
Hi, this is Richard Oakes, Director of Host.
Hey, this is Adam Leader, Director of Host.
This is Matthew Mark Hunter.
I'm Donna Nelly.
And you're listening to Week in Horror.
And you're listening to Week in Horror.
And this is Week in Horror.
And you're listening to Week in Horror.
Welcome to prime time, bitch!
News, trivia, and more.
One by one, we will take you.
Join our live show Wednesdays at 7 Central, youtube.com/weekinhorror, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Week in Horror. Stay scared.
Welcome back, horror fans. It's Wednesday, 7 p.m. Central Time, and that means it's time for another episode of the Week in Horror podcast, the only podcast that's your number one fan. And don't forget, if you're listening to us on your favorite podcast host, you can join us here on our live show on YouTube, so you too can laugh, scream with us, flex your horror knowledge, and maybe even win some trivia prizes. This week, we're covering select films released in horror history, November 14th through November 20th. Thank you all so much for joining us. I'm Eugene, and with me tonight are Alex and JL.
What's happening, everybody?
How's it going, horror fans? You know, I just realized I didn't even intend it in that intro. It's like live show on YouTube, so you too can live. You know,
I see what you did there.
It's silly. Oh, right, all right, man. It is okay. First a heads up. It is really, really storming over here, like hardcore. And already, Alex and Eugene were telling me that they could hear it coming over the microphone. So if you happen to hear that, that's not produced. Well, it's produced by nature, but it's not produced by me. So I am not. So yeah, so you may hear that coming over the mic. Maybe Alex says it sounds cool. So but we'll see. Because if I happen to suddenly vanish from the stream, you'll know why. Because my house has blown the fuck away.
I'd be a lot more concerned if you vanish and the rest of the room is still there. That would be.
You have to do like a and then it cuts to black.
It's gonna flash white and then just kind of like slowly resolve. You know,
if there's not a cow flying through your house during this whole thing, it doesn't count.
All right, let's take a look and see who is in the live chat. Who has joined us tonight?
What is up?
All right, we've got Surf. Yeah, Surf is in the house. He's the first up. Good to see you, Surf. One of our amazing patrons. Good to see you. And Travis Brown, Beaver C, Logical Hillbillies is all right. Time for some more scary shit. We do have a couple of scary ones tonight to talk about. And Sarcasm's in the house. Good to see you. And Travis Brown. Did I call Travis? I did call Travis Brown. I'm repeating names because I like to say hi to everybody at least twice. Clover Bomb is in the house. Good to see you. Commander Darklight as well. Another one of our amazing patrons. Got a bunch of our patrons in the house tonight. Charlie Welch as well. Aaron Reese, Tony Regime. Oh, man. Mr. Andrat. Archangel 3, Beaver C. Wow. Whoa. Just everybody's up in the house. Yes. Storming hardcore.
Everybody.
Travis Brown says, where does Week in Horror live? My fellow co-hosts, all of them are in Texas. We were all based out of Texas. This is a Texas-based podcast. And technically, I think still is, because even though I moved to Oklahoma. But
JL just picked up his boots one day and he's like, I'm going to Oklahoma, boys. And then left. And he was gone forever.
That's it.
I did go further north, but because 75% of us still live in Texas, I'm thinking it's still actually including Angela, so that's 5. So it's 20, 40, 60. 60% of us are still in Texas. So I think this is still a Texas-based production.
So long answer short, Texas, and we got one in Oklahoma.
Yep.
Oh, so yeah. Beaver C said the storm like heck over there too. So yeah, we'll see what happens. We'll see if the power holds. It's Tony Regime always blaming the wind on someone else. Well, I blame some wind on other people. That was supposed to be funny. Come on. Now you want me fucking hanging.
I wanted to see where you were going to go. I was like, hold.
But just hold it. I shouldn't have said anything. I should just kept holding. Oh, so many people. Oh, Jinju, good to see you. Jinju's in the house. And Aaron Reese says, if there's thunder and jail disappears in a flash of light and fire, it's really going to raise my expectations as to the production value. Too bad it'll be my final show.
But you went out in a blaze of glory.
Listen, it means an office opened up, and as you can tell, I need an office. So I'll just move over this way on the screen.
All right. So a whole bunch of awesome people in the chat I see there. So before we kick things off tonight, we talk about Travis Brown. Jail is the wind beneath his sheets. 50-50, my friend. 50-50 on that one. Half the time it's me. I'm not saying anymore that's going to get me in trouble because...
No, you got dogs, and we'll leave it at that so you don't get to ask kids.
I can blame it on the dog. Well, Shotzi is a serious pooter. She poops a lot. She really
Jail
does.
has already said pooter tonight, so you know it's going to be a
good night. Oh, yes. What was this? Jinju says, well, the Red River border is still in dispute, so it might possibly be all Texas.
True. Man, it is like the Wild West out here still.
And I see Thor Rasmussen in the house. Says, good evening, all you beautiful people. Good evening, Thor Rasmussen. Good to see you. All right, bunch of amazing people and an awesome show ahead for all of y'all. Some excellent choices. Some really gruesome one. A couple of gruesome ones that I wanted to give to the other guys so you guys can watch these movies. I know one of them you're going to be like, where the fuck did you find this piece of shit? I'm sorry to say, but we're going to get to that. First and foremost, on the docket, because we're like professional and we call the shit, we call the little script I write the docket. We have to do the bloodbath coin toss.
Oh, shit.
Yes, it is time for the bloodbath coin toss. Oh, I see you, Chris Durham, music channel. Thank you. So he says, I'm not here or I am, but I'm making dinner, so I'll be absent to chat. That's okay. You can lurk in my bushes any day of the week. All right. So we've got the official Texas Frightmare Weekend coin that we use. We should get a Week in Horror coin. That'd be pretty cool. But these things are badass. I mean, like, serious. This thing, I could hurt somebody with this thing.
You can use it to settle debates in more than one way.
In more than one way. All right. So as we've decided, the Texas Frightmare Weekend logo, or I would say that's not the logo. The Texas Frightmare Weekend, the words are tails, and the logo, which is actually the state of Texas, with the skeleton hand on it, that is heads, right? Or is that
makes
tails?
Sense to me.
Yeah, it works for me.
Okay, so that's heads, and that's tails.
Listen, it might be backwards from last time, but we can just say state of Texas is heads.
State of Texas is heads. There we go. State of Texas is heads. So we are going to do the bloodbath coin flip. The bloodbath coin flip tonight is between me and Alex because I won the last one when I trumped Johnny O, which was easy peasy. That wasn't even a challenge. I shall say. And Alex decided to step up next. So Alex is going to throw down the gauntlet. And this is for Alex. Tell him what this debate is.
When I got a text message when you and Johnny were talking on Discord or whatever, and I just see clowns or tomatoes, I was like, yes. So we will be doing Killer Clowns and Attack of the Killer Tomatoes.
Killer Clowns versus Killer Tomatoes. That is the bloodbath debate. So, state of Texas. Texas is heads. Winner gets to choose their opponent. Or winner gets to choose their, what horror icon they're going to take. Ready? Okay. Well, you got to call it in the air, Alex, because you're the challenger, so you're going to call it in the air.
Got it. Tails.
It's heads.
Damn it.
Heads. Ooh.
Which is cool, because I lost the last one. I lost the last coin toss, yet I still won.
And you still won.
So who are you taking?
No, you win. You pick.
Oh, it is right. I won. I picked. That's right. My bad. I did pick. I don't know where my head is.
Jim's not used to competing. He's usually just the best, and that's it. And
I will take Killer Clowns.
Ooh,
that's fair. I mean, you kind of have to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take Killer Clowns, and Alex is going to take Killer Tomatoes. So definitely let us know, weekinhorror@gmail.com, who you think is going to win. I'll probably put a post up at the community tab on YouTube as well, where you can comment there as to who you think is going to win. And don't worry, that's not all. I mean, we got awesome stuff ready for Christmas. For December, we're going to do Krampus versus Jack Frost. We've also got Arachnids versus Xenomorphs coming up, and I thought of a couple of other ones. And Wrong Turn versus The Hills Have Eyes is another one we have cut up. So we have cool, exciting ones coming up in 2022. Can you believe it's almost 2022?
Shut up.
I know. I'm still processing 2020.
I know, right? I haven't even gotten out of 2020 yet.
I'm still trying to wrap up 2019. What are you guys talking about?
But holy shit, we are almost in 2022. We've almost wrapped up 2021. We are halfway. What is it, second week? Yeah, we are halfway to Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
You guys got big plans? You guys got big plans to travel or
for Thanksgiving?
Yeah.
We're doing it all.
You got family all over the place, Alex.
I know, yeah. And so my mom's been working out of state doing traveling nursing. And so she's been out doing that. And so she's going to be back in town because my sister is actually going to have a baby. I believe they're scheduled for November 22nd. And so my mom's coming into town. My sister's coming into town. My other sister's having a baby. Then, we're going to have all the children and my wife's parents as well. So we will have the entire family crammed into 2 houses. It's going to be insane.
Awesome.
Opposite of Christmas. We literally have we got 1 baby for Christmas this year. Everybody will be out of town. Thanksgiving is going to kill me. If I make it past that day, we'll see you guys on the other side.
What about you, Eugene?
I don't have anything that big. Or I'm just going to meet up with mom and meet up with dad and have dinner and probably watch the Cowboys. That's about it.
The classic eat, pass out.
Yep.
Pretty much. See, it's weird for me because I've got family to the west, I've got family to the east, and I've got family here. So I have no idea what we've decided to do. I have no clue. But wherever we go, and I've got family south too. Family here in Oklahoma because my in-laws, and then family, friends technically, down in Texas. Then I've got family in California and family in South Carolina. So I got family all over the friggin' place. And I probably got some Missouri-bred, Ozark family members that are tooling around in a Winnebago somewhere out there. No, just somewhere out there in the wilderness doing their thing. I got family all over the place. So we'll figure it out.
Go to South Carolina, man. I wish I could go to South Carolina.
We'll probably figure it out like the day before. Like the day before, it's like, I guess we'll do this.
This is what we're doing, guys. Let's go.
All right, let's check in with the chat real quick before we jump onto our film selection. See. Mr. Andrew said, pretty thick bush. That's hilarious. Aaron Reese says, Chris Durham channel, I poisoned my kids' arteries with hamburger helper so I could be here in time. No, we appreciate that, Aaron. We really
love that level of commitment.
That's the kind of commitment we need.
Oh fuck! It's 7:00. What do I got? It's ground beef and this fucking hamburger helper that's been in the cabinet for the last 6 years. That's weird. It doesn't expire for another 6. Throw it on the fucking stove. They're gonna survive. Trust me, we've all been there. Thanks for being here.
Oh, Aaron Reese also said it looks like the Pog from hell. It really, actually, the Slammer looks like a Slammer from hell is what this is. Bam! I fucking win. All right, I see Ivy Gentry has joined us. Thank you so much, Ivy. Good to see you. And I saw a couple of I saw Chris Durham jumping in there. And N.A.N.A.'s in the house, another one of our amazing patrons from all the way back at the beginning, one of our earliest patrons. Good to see you, N.A.N.A. And Charlie Welch says, Krampus was my sisters on their shared menstrual cycles when I was a kid.
What the fuck?
Huh.
That's one way of putting it.
Huh.
I think we need to change the bloodbath debate now.
Oh, man. All right. I don't know where to go after that. He stole the show. And the Jord, good to see you. And the Jord says hello, cutie peeps. He's talking to you, Alex.
Hey.
Or he may be talking to Eugene. Eugene is the sex symbol.
It's true.
Either one.
And wrote it no last names. That says Gabba Gabba, everybody. Gabba Gabba to you, good sir. Good to see you. Let's see. Archangel 3 said, had someone turn me on to The Pit circa 1991. I didn't know I needed that in my life. Everybody needs that in their life. Absolutely. Aaron Reese says Jail's family couldn't wait to get as far from each other as humanly possible, evidently. Very true. Yeah, there's a story there. Long story. Probably for my other channel, but for my personal channel, but not for Week. No, actually, it is kind of a horror fucking story. It really it kind of is.
That's where we fast forward and you're like, there was blood everywhere. That's why we can't get in the same room.
All right. So, Travis Brown. Did you guys, I have to see this is funny. I saw the video of Kermit showing his pickle. Did you guys see that? No. It's an Omegle, like a I guess it's not a Vine anymore, but a collection of Amigo videos where Kermit is on the screen.
They call them TikTokers now,
or TikTok. Well, it's TikTok, but it was uploaded to TikTok from Omegle. So there are Omegle chats where Kermit is on the screen, and Kermit says he's dressed as a UPS driver. Says, "I have a new job. I deliver packages. I have a special delivery for you." And then a cucumber comes up into the screen.
Okay.
Yeah. So that exists.
Yes, it does.
Okay. All right.
Hey, Rule 34. Rule 34 of the internet.
If it exists.
If you can think it, it's out there.
Yes. And Ryan Ant says, hi and bye. I am currently stalking victims as Ghostface on Twitch. Playing Dead by Daylight. Badass. Very cool. Good luck with those kills. Sounds like fun. Speaking of which, we will be getting the Digital Darkness up very, very soon. And Dead by Daylight is a game that I think would be awesome for us to be playing because you get to be all kinds of killers in that one. And Angie, good to see you. Thank you so much. Hello, scary bitches. Hello to you, Angie.
Hello.
Cheerio.
All right then. So, man, we got through that. We did the bloodbath toss. So,
let's see.
Yeah, we ready?
Let's get to our first movie. Alex, what do we got first?
I'm so glad Wednesday? I gave you this
what are we doing? We're doing comedies today. It's Wednesday. We're doing horror. All right. Let's start this one out with something fucking French.
Oh, fuck. That's what no, what the fuck? Go finish. Go finish first.
Oh, no, yeah, I got it. All right. So,
French. It's fucking Italian.
It's the same continent.
Dude. This thing is so sideways, there's no telling where it's fucking from. So we're talking about Beyond the Darkness, came out November 15th, 1979. This movie was directed by Joe, and I always fuck up D'Amato. Starring, bear with me, Kieran Cantor, Cynthia Monreal, Frank Astopi, Sam Modesto. This movie was, as Jail corrected, Italian, AF, as the kids would say.
Yes.
This one was.
I want to hear the synopsis you give it.
So this
come on, Alex, break it down.
I know it's hard. This lady dies. It's so Italian. You got to watch it like 3 times. And it's so fucked up every time you watch it through. So this lady dies. And then there's this lady that in Voodoo obviously stabs a voodoo doll. Bro.
Synopsis, man. Okay. After the death of his beloved, a young man goes to extraordinary and extreme lengths to keep her.
Yeah, he
How about that?
He embalms her.
Did you write that?
No.
Oh.
This is off the top of my head.
He embalms her and then keeps going through stuff to keep her while other people kind of get in the way.
So it's essentially it. After the death of his beloved, or actually you can say after. And actually, this is weird. It's kind of weird. It's difficult because they never really say what the relationship is between. Between
what Frank and
Anna? No. Damn it, Iris. Frank and Iris. They never say exactly what their relationship is. Just that she's known him since he was young, and they never. But they don't know. We don't know if she's a midwife, if she's an aunt, if she's what. Just that, or she's just like
always been fucking there,
like a maid or a caretaker or something of that nature. We don't know what the relationship is. So let's just say that she's like the housekeeper or the head maid or whatever. But
well, listen, if you're going to go through the effort to you're embalming her and you're carrying her around and you're dealing with guts and stuff, that's a sexual relationship. You're not going to
that's Anna. That's Anna, the girl who died.
That's the fiance,
but all of the insanity is basically enabled by Iris, by this weird relationship he has with Iris, who we don't know who she is in relation to Frank, because Frank is kind of like, as a matter of fact, he doesn't really give up a lot. He just kind of does what he does. And
there's not a whole lot. There's like a creepy ass fucking chant, and then he's like, "I'll fucking kill you," and then he does. I don't know the whole thing.
The whole movie in and of itself was a sarcasm says she was obviously his wet nurse, and I'm inclined to agree that she probably was, given the very first interaction we see between the two of them. And so I'm thinking, when he's mourning the death of his beloved Anna, and then we see that interaction between them, and it's like, yeah, probably. What is it? Chris Durham says her spirit left her, but he wouldn't leave her body. That's a good one.
Is that the tagline? That's probably one of the taglines.
But I mean, so it's very subtle in that. They also touch on the voodoo thing at the beginning, which is a little weird because they never go back to it.
No.
But we have to remember that
that's why. Is it like supernatural?
D'Amato and the producers of this film said that this movie was not intended to portray anything, to do anything except freak out and gross out the audience. That was it. It was just to be a shocking film. That's all it was intended to be.
It was very shocking.
Yeah, I think they definitely accomplished their mission on that.
I don't know. It starts with the voodoo doll. This is why it's hard to explain, because it starts with the voodoo doll and it ends with a human fucking doll. And like the whole thing is just fucked up. And then he just starts, going crazy. And then there's, I don't know. It never really wraps up. I guess it kind of does, but
yeah. Okay. So Frank Estoppi, who was on the show, recalled D'Amato saying that we're making a movie to make people throw up. We must make them vomit.
Oh, well, yeah.
That's what D'Amato was going for. He wanted to shoot for that. That's what that was the whole intention. Okay, now before we dive into this, the very, very gruesome production that this was, because there's a reason this film was so nauseating and queasy. We'll jump to that. But one thing that was really, really interesting is this movie itself was released. Okay, so when researching this film, I found it really, really interesting, and I learned something about the Italian film industry, the horror genre in particular, but this also goes for the film industry in Italy, is that there is a series of things called La Casa, which is basically the house, okay? And the La Casa is essentially a series of films. They're not connected in any way. They're kind of thematically connected. That's why they call it the La Casa series. The La Casa series is essentially horror films, thriller films, or giallo films that all take place around one home. That's essentially the theme, where there's one central location. There's like the house of the antagonist or the protagonist. Something happens there, but the house is the central feature, and it doesn't really go anywhere else. All of the action takes place there. So, and the reason they created this subgenre, and this was really, really interesting, is, and we can get into why in just a moment, but what was really cool is that it allows them to essentially remake and repackage other films under this new brand as a part of the La Casa series. And they would give it a new title and everything. Like they would take a movie that was already released, repackage and retitle it under this, and they essentially created a subgenre that everything else could just fall under as long as the action took place in a house. Which I thought was, this is the 70s, the 60s and 70s. It's pretty fucking brilliant. That's like Sergio Leone shooting Westerns in Italy because it's so fucking cheap.
Right.
Spaghetti Westerns, spaghetti horror is essentially what this is. And they did this trick, the La Casa kind of package that you could put stuff in. And Evil Dead 2. These films were a part of that. They were actually taken from America, distributed in Italy under the La Casa franchise, or the La Casa packaging, so that they could be redone. So you could actually find Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2, and I think it was La Casa and La Casa, Do. I don't know, that's in Italian, but La Casa 2 in, as the same movies under a different packaging, which is hilarious.
La Casa Dua.
It makes me think of, I don't know if you've ever seen the Saturday Night Live sketch about the Hallmark movies with James Franco, and it talks about how they're all the same. And they're like, can you spot the location that we used? It's a gazebo. We used it in 4 different films. James Franco did 2 of these films for free.
Absolutely. Oh, that's awesome. Daniel Cooper's in the house. Good to see you. Says Weekend Horror just got my new Cthulhu shirt. It says, what part of Fuinia Muqualavio Cthulhu Realia Wigna Fatagan don't you understand? Absolutely. And I know I hit some of those words wrong, but I know I hit some of them right.
But you don't want to hit all of those right.
But you don't want to hit all of them right.
You never speak Latin in front of the books.
What is that from?
Buffy.
What is it?
Buffy.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Okay. It was like, I know that line. Or Cabin in the Woods. Okay, I'm drawing a line in the fucking sand. Do not read the Latin.
Read the Latin. Split up.
Okay, is anybody else? So this was, so I think this was really, really cool. And then diving into this, I found many movies that as long as a house or a home was the central theme of the film, of the horror film, they could repackage and retitle it this. And I'm imagining, just because the I don't want to say cheapness. Well, maybe cheapness is the right word, of the Italian film.
Like thrifty.
The thrifty nature of the Italian filmmaking industry.
Yes.
This was the best way that they could inject money into that economy, or I guess into that industry in Italy. Just because I guess not a lot of people were, you had your horror filmmakers, but it's not, I guess it's just not as big as America. Their market is so much smaller. They've got to find a way to have that industry. And this was a really, really smart way of just capitalizing on that.
Ultimately, you do what you got to do in it.
Right.
And Italy doesn't have necessarily like a Hollywood or a Bollywood or something like that. So you had to kind of work with the resources that you have on it. And so if you have to be able to repackage films, you get a house and you use that house for 3 different movies because it's cheaper and it saves time. Do what you got to do. I'm not going to blame them for that.
Absolutely. Now, given that, I found that to be really interesting. And if any of you go out there, and actually any of y'all listening, go out there and look for this, you will find that it's as funny as Filipino movie posters. That thread is hilarious. When you see the Filipino have you ever seen these Filipino made movie posters for movies that, they're absolutely hysterical because they're all hand drawn. They're all like hand done, so they don't have to pay for anything. So they make them all for the theaters, and they're fucking ridiculous, dude.
It's terrible. I'm looking at them right now.
They're awful. They're so bad. Some of them are hilarious, and some of them kind of like nail it. If it had been done like really like professionally done, that would be a really cool poster. Some of them are just absolute. Just where were you going with this? Like the poster missed the plot. But but still, I think it's really, really cool, and I think you'll dive into it. You say, "Wait a minute, this was actually this movie." Now it was actually this movie, and you'll see that a number of times. Now, this particular one, Beyond the Darkness, talk about saving money, right, Eugene?
Okay.
What did you think of the autopsy scene first?
Okay. So the cinematography, the lighting is, if you've ever seen maybe something like Debbie Does Dallas, about the same level of like cinematography.
Here, let me match you. You're digging through your garage in 1997, and you find a camcorder, and you pick it up, and you're like, "Let's make a fucking movie." And you only can use the things that are in your refrigerator as props. Then that's what this was.
But I will give them this though. They committed to the guts and the gore on it. So with this one, they used all real animal like products. So you're getting animals' intestines, you're getting pig skins, you're getting lamb hearts. And I mean the intestines coming out of the chest on it, and then it falls and hits the floor. And
He dumps it off in the bucket and everything, and then he proceeds to like eat her fucking heart and shit. And I'm like, and that came out of nowhere. I didn't suspect that he was a cannibal by any respect. This guy went from
as a cannibal. What the fuck am I watching?
This guy went from unnaturally strange relationship with his wet nurse to sociopathic, grave robbing cannibal, necrophiliac cannibal in like the spans of like 30 fucking minutes. It's like they just keep piling on.
It happens fast.
They keep piling on the pathologies. And it's like, what the fuck is going on with this?
No lead-in. You get a voodoo doll. So you're like, is this a voodoo? Maybe this is some kind of reanimation thing, but trying to bring her back from the dead. And no, he doesn't try to bring her back. So then he's like, okay, maybe he's like infatuated with her. And you're like, okay, that's another creepy. And then he's eating. I'm just like,
I don't know where we're going with this.
So yeah, I will admit a couple of things that stood out. One, the autopsy scene, the stuff they did with the up close stuff. Obviously using animal skin, like pig skin, in order to get that same effect, because up close in the camera, it's almost indistinguishable. I thought it was really impressive. It was kind of like, it reminded me in The Thing, 1981. They actually had a crew member, who this is wild. They had a crew member on set who was a former heroin addict, who was a recovering heroin addict, and was not afraid of needles. And so he allowed his arm to be available for all of the injection scenes. It didn't bother him whatsoever. So they would actually, all the injection scenes you saw in The Thing were all real. The same thing with this one, but they went up close, because for some reason Italian horror has got a real love of the zoom in shot. They want to zoom in on something over and over and over again. But it's effective. Exactly. It's effective. It gets you in on what they want you to be focusing on and what's important and what's emotive in the scene. And so they would zoom in on these scenes when he's doing these, when he's doing the injections into her body. And then, of course, the autopsy scene, the close-ups of him cutting, he's legitimately cutting open what I'm pretty certain was a pig. They probably had like a pig, and him actually doing the cut open. But the wide shots were solid. That looked really good. I was kind of like, holy shit, that looks really solid, because the lighting was good, because sometimes I couldn't tell if it was a fake her or a real her, because there were mentions that I got to give props to this actress. She kicked ass as a dead body.
Bro, you know how hard it is? There was one scene that you can catch her that always gets me when people, you got to watch the eyes, when people are trying to play dead.
Mm-hmm.
And there's one scene where like she's like moving forward and her eyes stay fixed. And I'm like, but she's supposed to not be moving her eyes, and that threw me.
Well, what's impressive is that on close-ups, you can often see, especially that she was so thin. Right. And in a really, really thin person, you can see their heartbeat in their neck.
Jugular, yeah.
Exactly. You can see their jugular veins going. I never could once. And you see a person who's going to lay there and be dead. Okay, the actor's going to be a dead body. Well, let's see how long she can make it look like she's dead. That was impressive.
Yeah.
It really was. And so he's going to town, he's opening her up, pulling all the shit out of her, and then pulls out her heart and fucking eats her heart right then and there, and then tortures the hitchhiker to death for some fucking reason. I don't understand why. I mean, it's wild. But I will say
but think about that though, real quick, just to give you like a perspective. Like everything that you see in a movie, you film for 2 hours, Eugene, and but how much film do you actually have? So every scene that you see her playing dead in and doing a really good job at it, she did that for that long, plus however long, you know, got cut off of the movie. So that's just impressive. Like being able to sit through, you know, because it wasn't the movie wasn't that long, but
because what was it? The autopsy of Jane Doe. She had to go through actual training and to get be able to get the mental wherewithal to play a dead body for an entire movie.
That was impressive. That was deeply impressive.
Yeah.
And I think the only time I've seen an autopsy scene better was in the movie Pathology. And in that film, with that was Milo Ventimiglia and Alyssa Milano. He's performing Alyssa Milano's autopsy, and they shot it up above, like the camera was the light, and she looked. I mean, that looked fantastic, and that looked like legit. That was freaky. It was so fucking good.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, this one was pretty brutal. And of course, like I said, and Jinju says, I really hope this was before the era of injecting formaldehyde because that leaves a nasty taste. One, I don't know how you know that. Two,
you've never tasted formaldehyde?
If I have, I don't remember. So
you got to go in through the neck right here. I have a friend who's an embalmer. So you slit right here. And you go in and you pump it in where you connect to the artery and you pump it in through the artery.
I've had formaldehyde as a skin treatment from the doctor one time.
Well, I can tell you this.
Dude, it smells so bad.
He grabs her right after, like the night after her burial. Like she's buried and he's there that night. And I don't think she was embalmed. Just because, you know, just by the look of it. And it may have been, they don't go into any of the religious aspects or like that. But I don't think she was embalmed at all. So she was just fresh. That's why all of her stuff was in there, and they had to, you know, he had to rip it so she wouldn't decompose. But yeah, but I mean, the cost saving measures, of course, in this kind of film, and this is, you know, all over the, you know, obviously in Italy they would not have the qualms that you would have over here in the American. I mean, Eugene, you know, in any American films that would hold this kind of stunt. I mean, y'all did it on your short film, but that's for lack of money. But any that would actually use real animal entrails and organs to pull off a big scene like this?
I can't think of any off the top of my head. Right. I know it's been done. I know there has to be some big Hollywood movie and some director was like, I want animal parts, and everybody kind of went along with it.
Probably not up to
the hard thing is finding actors and actresses that are willing to work with animal parts, because at the no budget level, people just won't work and they're real gung-ho about it, so they'll play with parts and intestines and everything. But when you start getting to SAG and higher level, you'll get a lot of actors who are like, I don't want to touch that.
Especially nowadays with all the crap going on, nobody's gonna be
Nope. Aaron Reed says Evil Dead did, but that's low, but that was extremely low budget as well.
There was The Revenant.
But that was also a La Casa film, wasn't it?
Oh, it was. Evil Dead was repackaged under the La Casa brand in Italy. Yeah.
So it's these La Casa guys that are.
So what are the Revenant? You said the Revenant?
Yeah, the Revenant used real animal parts. It just came to me when Leonardo DiCaprio's eating a liver from like a buffalo. That is a real liver.
Nothing satisfies like another animal's poison filter.
Yeah, despite the fact that he's a vegetarian, but he did eat it for real.
And Mr. Andrews says the smell on set using organs must have added to the scene. Yeah, I probably would have added to the scene. And Travis Brown says Herschel Gordon Lewis, who used animal parts for his horror movies, and I have no doubt that were probably like for Blood Feast, most likely, which I think was a Herschel, which was a Lewis film. I'm pretty certain that they used just for the epic climactic scene. There was probably animal parts in there as well. You know, all kinds of just gnarliness, but it adds to the effect because. And I watched this with my wife, and she was just like, "What the?" And it just kept getting worse and worse. All the way from pulling fingernails to acid baths.
Bro, even the pulling fingernails, like you could tell it was like super fake because he'd like get real close to it, and then he'd be like, "Ooh, next one, ooh," and then.
Well, I think what it is that it's done up. It's essentially okay. So the effect is, and the way I understand it, looking into it, is that the actress has her nails trimmed very, very close so that there's nothing there. And then they place a deal over it that looks like looks like the nail bed. and they put a fake one on top so he can go boom, and it's like haha, and then she had particularly long
It's like
nails,
you
so
can
he
tell
grab
he's
them.
trying to hide the magic trick, though. That's the whole thing.
Well, I don't know. He was
it.
fighting hard to get her hands up, like you have to make sure you're looking at this fucking fingernail.
He went fucking ape shit, dude. It was
he went ape shit on her. Well, he went ape shit on everybody.
Well, I know, but he's like
fair.
fine for like half a second, then all of a sudden he's like ripping your fucking fingernails off, and it's like
or biting your throat out,
dude. Yes, what the fuck was that? And then
right,
there was a lot going on in this one.
It's I
can't believe we've had so much to talk about it because it was just so nonsensical. There was like no fucking point. This guy's like, watch this guy just go fucking ape shit.
He just wanted to make a movie where people threw up.
The point is to make people vomit. You know, and then you get that with like people's faces getting bitten off and eyes getting ripped out and shit.
You know what gets me the worst? The under the fingernail stuff. Like when somebody sticks something under somebody's fingernail in like slow motion. And
you're talking about there was a torture scene in Black Robe. In the movie
Black Robe.
Yeah, Black Robe, where the guy has clamshells.
Yeah.
Shoved up underneath his fingernails.
Yeah, dude.
Eugene's like, no. The
other one that gets me is the hangnail thing. Like people ripping off a hangnail and going too far. That's
I sent you that meme.
I know. You know how uncomfortable that shit made me? I didn't even get halfway down and I was like, no.
It was like one of those little cartoons where the guy's like, got the piece, and then he's like pulls it, it just rips all the way up his arm.
I've seen some of the fucking gnarliest shit on the internet, dude, and that gets me harder than anything.
Aaron Reed says it's driving me insane because there was one movie I heard about recently that kept having to drive out again and again for fresh intestines, but I can't remember which one. Oh, that does sound familiar. Huh? Maybe it will come to us.
Yeah, if you remember, definitely let us know.
You could probably Google like movies that you know what? Leave it to. All right, man. This movie was something else. So, being on this La Casa kick and Italian horror, I'd like to ask the audience, what is your favorite Italian horror? There was a lot of it. A lot of it was very bad. There were some very good movies that came out of, especially this time period, the 70s, 80s, in Italian horror. Let us know. weekinhorror@gmail.com. Leave a comment below. Call JL. Go to Eugene's house. I don't know. What do you guys? I mean, anything that comes to mind outside of stuff like outside of La Casa?
My favorite Italian stuff, Italian horror, is always going to be like the Fulci. So is Italian zombie horror because they went to serious extremes, and I loved what they did to it. So the cannibal horror is always going to be my favorite. Doesn't matter what it is. Could be Cannibal Ferox, could be Cannibal Holocaust, could be zombie, anything like that. Anything like that kind of just gnarliness. Any of the cannibal stuff is just awesome to me.
Yeah.
I would probably link with a Suspiria. Something like that with Dario Argento.
Awesome.
Definitely.
Travis Brown says, as for now, it is The House by the Cemetery. Fucking A. Excellent one. Oh, yeah, and Aaron Reese is A Bay of Blood, just for the ending.
Oh, yeah.
Chris Durham says, is Fabio Italian horror?
He looks now, yes.
Sarcasm. I still love the original Demoni or Demons. It has that beautiful bleak ending. We talked about Demons.
We did talk about Demons.
We talked about that one extensively on a previous episode. And shot against the backdrop of the events leading up to the fall of the Berlin Wall. It was a really, really interesting conversation we had about that particular one. Sounds cool. Sounds like the storm was passed on. That's nice. I don't have to worry about the power going out. All right, so I guess I've got the next one, right?
Oh, yeah. I think so.
See, I gave myself this one this week. I'm so glad I did.
It's so 90s, and Oh, there's so
And
much
not to
More
mention,
90s.
not to mention, this one was a little difficult to find. But we're gonna jump into this one. God, this one was just not great. So the next movie we're gonna talk about tonight, released November 16th, 1995, and it is the movie Voodoo. That's it.
Just Voodoo.
So directed by Renee Aram and written by Brian DiMuccio and Dino Vendeni, starring Corey Feldman. And no one else. No. Corey Feldman, Jack Nance, Joel J. Edwards, Diane Nadeau, Ron Melendez, and Sarah Douglas. Essentially, Corey Feldman stars as a youth who then has to contend with the secretive actions of a voodoo cult on campus. And that's pretty much it. I picked this one, even though there's not much to say about it. Acting wise, writing wise, I mean, this is student film fare, to be perfectly honest. But I wanted, because we never got a chance to really talk about the what I think I lovingly refer to as the 90s swamp. Essentially, the 90s version of what we have streaming today. When you go into like Amazon or Netflix or Hulu and you deep dive into their catalog and you go to the very, very bottom, like you just pull up the genre and you just dive deep. Those movies you get towards the back end, those ones you never hear anything about, starring nobody you know, nothing at all, and you're just like, what is this horror movie? What is it? And I've seen some bad ones where monsters are made out of like garbage bags and shit. But I watch them just in case. And then, because we may have to talk about them. And so this was essentially what the 90s did. This was your Walmart bargain bin film that saw essentially either direct-to-TV releases or straight to DVD.
Straight to DVD. This is 95, bro. Straight to VHS.
Straight to VHS. My bad. God damn, it's so
straight to
old.
Laserdisc.
Straight to VHS releases that you would never know about, and essentially, it's major because it stars Corey Feldman, one of the heartthrobs of the 80s and the early 90s.
Let's put it this way: when you type Voodoo into Google and you scroll down, looking at normally it pop up with like IMDb and like Wikipedia, you'll find like moviephone.com has like the review for Voodoo. That's
it's something. It's one of those movies that it got lost in the shuffle. I don't know how it got made to even begin with. And yeah, it's just because your movie is on Netflix doesn't mean it's good.
Right.
Because they will advertise all the really good stuff that they want you to watch. And then you get some of the good stuff that you hear from word of mouth. And then you get to the point where like no one seen. I never heard of this movie until we were like getting ready for the pod. Never heard of it. Never saw a trailer for it. I've never heard anybody talk about it. I hear Voodoo. There's the 2017 movie that came out. I never even heard of it, and it looks like something you've never heard of.
Right. This, given the lackluster cover art, just on that alone, just like the cover art on the VHS release, just looking at that, you think this was up there with like a Troma production. It's so cheaply done, and so what I'm pretty much thinking is that because it starred it had Corey Feldman, it had Jack Nance in it, and I think a number of people will probably remember Jack Nance from Eraserhead. From David Lynch's Eraserhead. But in this respect, it's just one of those movies that you do when I love Corey Feldman. I love Corey Haim. I'm a child of the 80s. I grew up with Corey. I grew up with the Coreys. The things that went on in their lives were very, very difficult. And Corey Feldman, knowing what we know now, as of like 2021, the shit he dealt with going on in his life was extraordinarily hard. I can imagine why it would be difficult for him to land roles, because making that transition from being a child actor, even though you were awesome and you were great, you had this great thing with Corey Haim. Then, of course, both of them were victims of essentially the 80s. Yeah. And a beautiful documentary. If you've never seen it, and this is not horror related, if you've ever seen the documentary that Soleil Moon Frye released regarding her when she was Punky Brewster.
No.
And talking about her life growing up and all of the people that she hung out with, everyone appeared at some point because she was friends with everybody. But she kind of like shines a spotlight on kind of like the horrors of, that life of being a child star in those days. And this is how this is why I kind of think it deserves a little bit of credit, because this is how Corey stayed alive. Doing movies like this, these little opportunities, is how Corey essentially maintained his sanity and was able to keep going. Now, imagine you strip the entire industry away from him. He's got nothing else. That's it.
Yeah, and that was real similar to Jodie Sweetin from Full House. And I watched a real in-depth interview with her because she started the show when she was like 10.
Right.
And when the show went off the air, she was like 17 or 18. So she got so accustomed to that lifestyle. Full House became like her family because they had the same crew every season. So she knew everybody, the cam ops, directors, producers, even the PAs working. She knew them and she saw them every day. And then when the show went off the air, she was one of the last people to find out, and it was just gone.
Right.
And there were no phone calls for movie roles. There wasn't another sitcom that was looking to pick her up. There was just absolutely nothing, and it drove her into depression because she did drug use for a long time. Had some run-ins with the law, alcohol, and she's fine, and I'm glad she recovered, and she's doing great now. But it was a good 10 years where she battled a lot of demons.
Yeah, it's rough, and so that's why it was like watching this was weird, because for all reviewing purposes, this movie is fucking terrible. I'm not gonna lie, it's a terrible fucking movie.
It is. You don't have to watch it if you don't want to. If you like bad movies, watch it. But
if you like bad movies, but the problem is this thing actually takes itself kind of seriously. And it shouldn't have. This movie should have never taken itself seriously in any respect. This has never been this should tongue-in-cheek, trauma style. That would have been great. And I think that may have been a few missteps somewhere along the lines. But nonetheless, knowing what I know now, and hey, I see you, Skooma Cat. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. And knowing that what I know now, it gave me a different appreciation for it, because knowing what he was going through at the time. And yes, Aaron Reese, I shoved my fist and arm all the way down the toilet to fish out this piece of shit. I really did. But I have to say, despite the fact, and I found this is what was wild. So think about it, like, in this respect. Yes, Travis Brown, the mouth from the Goonies. It's the 90s swamp. It is. And you can find these kinds of movies all over the place. But knowing what I know now, knowing what we know now about what he was going through and what he was dealing with, this is essentially watching someone stay alive, which is why he put so much into it, which is why it comes. Unfortunately, it's not just Corey that hurts this thing. The whole thing is bad. Bad director, bad writing, bad cinematography, bad everything. Okay, overwrought script, but damn it, he's trying his best, he's working with what he can. And go ahead.
And, well, you get to the point where you are the big child star, and everybody feeds into, oh, you're the next big thing, and all these people want to be your friend, and all these people want to work with you, and all these other people, and you're just in that circle in Hollywood towards the top of it. And then stuff starts happening, and it turns on a dime. It's just gone. No phone calls. No one wants to be. And you become an adult, and it's like, well, what do you do? Like, just like nothing. You have this career. You're making a lot of money on this. You're on magazine covers. You're on TVs. You're on movies. You're doing this stuff. And then what? You're supposed to work at a grocery store afterwards? You're supposed to get an office job and be a clerk?
Well, I wonder, like when you got people like
insane.
Yeah,
when you got people like Corey Feldman, because it wasn't like small names in this movie. I mean, there was some that you'll never ever hear of again. I don't even know what did Sarah Douglas do after this, but you had Corey Feldman, you had Ron Melendez, who ended up he was in like The Young and the Restless, and then like every TV show you've ever seen. And like Jack Nance, and you've got these people, these big names, Jack Nance, Twin Peaks. You got these big names, but then you got, like you said, this terrible directing, this terrible writing, terrible setup, this cash grab that clearly wasn't going to work out. Like you could tell about halfway.
Definitely capitalizing on Corey's name, on Corey
right?
being
And so
attached to it. Yeah.
they knew stuff started going down quickly at that point, and I think the people behind the movie saw that and just kind of gave up. It wasn't even. There was no heart. The actors put everything they could into it because a lot of them were really on their last leg. And like you said, trying to find out, trying to just get their foot into anything that they can because they're panicking. And there was no chemistry between, actor to script and script.
Okay,
to
yeah,
writer.
that wasn't something that just was just me. I'm glad that stood out to somebody else as well. That it just. Eugene, did it feel very, guys? Did it feel very like slapdash? Like this was just thrown together?
It was just disconnected and thrown together. Yeah,
yeah. It felt like something. It felt like something that was real rushed. It felt like something that they just basically just found whoever they could. They weren't casting for a particular like a character. I don't think the director had any vision.
Maybe just like like I know this like some directors, you'll see the same names pop up in TV. Like you'll get like a season of television, you'll get a director comes by just directs one episode of television. So they'll direct one episode of this, they'll direct another episode of this, another episode of this, another episode of this. But they don't like direct the whole thing. They didn't create it. They're just brought in to direct an episode. And that's what this this is what this kind of felt like. It's just a director came in and was like, well, we've got this. And this is what I'm thinking is what happened behind this. We've got this script that we bought that is trash. And we bought it for a pittance. It's been sitting here for forever. Let's get a quick rewrite on it. And which is probably why it's most likely why there are two names attributed to writing this thing. So let's get get a quick rewrite, get a quick polish on it. Get someone's name attached to it, someone whose career maybe is hanging by a thread, or a couple of people, maybe some soap opera stars, somebody, people who are really, really quick that we could just throw into this thing, and then just grab a director, call the DGA, find somebody, and then wham, and just knock this thing out and get it out there, just so we could take this script that we have laying around and make a little bit of money off of it, maybe because people still are fans of Corey Feldman. And that's what I'm thinking it was. It's it's kind of gross, but it's the name of the game. It's capitalism. It's a movie. It's the movie industry. What are you gonna do?
Talk about the director. This was like one of two movies that they directed. There was only two, and one they were back to back. It was Voodoo and then Sweet Evil after that, and then you got credits for like assistant director, casting director, producer, additional crew.
Yeah.
On like one movie each in those categories. Actually, one of them is mentioned 3 times. So he'd only really been on set for 3-4 movies total. One of them was a TV movie.
So that looks like it potentially could have been okay. You're never going to get your break. I can say for this. I think Eugene will back me up on this. When you get your break as a director, it's not going to be on some big budget film.
No.
When you get your break as a director, it's going to be on something that you get thrown. Let's see what you do with this. And if you can actually do something with it, then the machine kind of feeds you some more.
And
until
say you've got
eventually,
the bankroll, you can get a couple of big names, at that time, like Corey Feldman. And,
right. Unless you go out and just do it yourself and you prove to everyone that you're a blockbuster right out the gate. Because there are some directors who've been able to do that, like, Fede Alvarez did that. Here's my short film. Now I get the Evil Dead franchise. What the fuck on that? That doesn't happen. So, and maybe this was a shot. He looked at the script, was like, and didn't put anything of himself in it, which is probably why he's not directing any more feature films.
Nothing after the 90s. So,
yeah. And it could have been. Because I know Quentin Tarantino has made a career off. He likes actors that he grew up with, that their careers are kind of fleeting, like John Travolta in Pulp Fiction,
Pauly Shore,
David Carradine in Kill Bill. He loves casting those people, and they always see a resurgence in their career afterwards. So, I mean, Corey Feldman could have been, let me get something, because if it's halfway decent, maybe one person will watch it and want to cast me as something else.
Right. Seth MacFarlane does the same stuff too.
Yeah.
Grabs people kind of like, in the twilight of their careers, people who they kind of tapered off and just brings back. Just remember, you love these people. You loved them and you loved them for a reason. Now, love them again. I like how McFarlane does that.
Absolutely.
So, Aaron Reese says the 90s were the last cash in on a lot of genres before their renaissance. You also saw a lot of garbage in the 2000s when digital tech made production a lot easier. Yes.
When 3D stuff started coming out, that was when movies were just garbage.
And right. Once digital tech became the I guess the mainstream, and people were like, film, god damn, it's expensive. Digital, we don't have to worry about how many takes per take we're doing because it's digital. It's great. It's about now it's about storage size instead of how many reels you have to deal with. Once digital became the norm, you could pump out movies all day long,
and they all look terrible.
They were majority awful.
Digital cameras in the 2000s still weren't anything close to film in terms of like sensor wise and stuff. So digital cameras have been around since the 70s. You just didn't see them. In the 2000s, people kind of started experimenting with them, but the sensors, the technology just wasn't there. You just weren't going to beat 35 millimeter film.
Right.
You didn't have a pixel count. You didn't have the sensor. You just didn't.
We've all sat in a room and watched a full movie, not full movie, but a short film shot in one shot on an iPhone.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Today you can put cameras, high-end digital cameras up against film, and barely, you have to be a real cinematographer to barely tell the difference between the two.
I still can't believe that movie. What was that movie? Better than film.
Oh yeah. That was that movie Unsane is the one that did that.
Yeah.
That was the totally shot on, I think it was the iPhone 6.
It was like the 6, yeah. I think
the iPhone 6. Yeah, completely shot on the iPhone 6. There was one that was completely shot on a phone that was like, and it was because of the pandemic. That was the highest grossing movie at the box office for that month. Because it was the only one that released.
And made like $10,000. That's something ridiculous.
It's incredible. And like I had to go and get a new phone because mine just decided it was done. And I got a Galaxy S21 Ultra Plus 5G, whatever.
Ultra Tournament Edition.
They're like
Challenger mode.
For 17 years. Here's a phone. But so I was taking pictures of the moon with it because I saw on the YouTube that people were doing that with that phone. And it's
Alex, stop. You realize how old you just made yourself sound? I saw it on the YouTube.
I'm coming with my age, man. But it's seriously
I saw it on the YouTube.
The fucking craters of the moon, which is just insane. And like thinking of just coming from when we were kids, when we were in the 90s, and seeing like I was talking about like camcorder, you guys, big ass fucking cameras that you got to lug around. You got to throw a full size VHS tape in them to record. And now I'm just hitting 31, and it's like, yeah, you can just take pictures of the fucking craters on the moon in high def.
Aaron Reese says, I have a problem with a lot of digital footage just because I'm a slut for depth of field. And this is what I'm saying. With the advent of all this technology, we still don't have good footage of a Bigfoot. What the fuck? I'm just going to throw that out there. Random thought in my head. We still can't get good footage of a Bigfoot. What the shit? But we can shoot blockbuster movies on a phone.
To be fair,
blockbuster movie on this fucker. And we can't get it.
Like film like a fist fight correctly either. It's just always like
that's
found footage.
I guess, yeah.
And with him referring to depth of field, some phones will kind of simulate this. So those who don't know what depth of field is the area in front of the camera that's in focus, like the width of it. And so usually it's like a certain distance. So you'll measure focus to say like 10 feet where your subject is, and things in front and after behind it will be out of focus depending on how far it is. And so you can't create that naturally on like a phone. You need an actual lens with an actual aperture, and you can still use like a digital like sensor camera, like a RED or an ARRI, to get that effect on it. But
you can simulate it on a phone, but it's never the same. You can always tell.
It's never the same.
It does a thing to your eyes. It makes your eyes feel a certain way, and it's so different on film than it is digitally.
Well, I can honestly say, given this one, while the film, like I said, Aaron Reese, Sasquatch's thick, massive hair generates a massive static field that interferes with any digital technology. Okay.
I've never heard that theory
makes
before.
Sense.
I'll buy it.
But I accept it.
I'll buy it for $1. So I have to say, going back and going and watching this one, this would have been different if I didn't know what I know now. And having, knowing what I know about Corey Feldman's documentary that came out about his struggles when he was younger, the things that he went through. So I had a different appreciation for this coming at it because I hadn't seen this before. I selected it for us to talk about. So I'm, and I was like looking at it. I guess I looked at it through a different lens, and yeah, it's not good, but there's a sense behind it that kind of like was both sad and kind of appreciative, just knowing what we know now. And I think that maybe that helped. I don't know. Maybe that's just circumstance. But if you dig really, really terrible horror, where people are really trying hard to make good horror and it's not, definitely check it out. If you love Corey Feldman, that's a Corey Feldman movie you may not have heard of, but there you have it. I mean, it is what it is. But I wanted to kind of showcase a little bit, why it's different when you have that information of what's going on behind the scenes, of what's going on in an actor's life or somebody, whoever it is. How it kind of changes the scope of things. Then some of the pieces fall into place that normally wouldn't have, and you kind of get a sense. Oh yeah, kind of get that because as good as actors are, a little bit of you bleeds into your performance, and you can't stop that from happening. I don't care how good someone is, DiCaprio, Cate Blanchett, Dame Judi Dench, fucking Benedict Cumberbatch, Daniel Day-Lewis. As method as you can be, even in the most top-notch method actors, a little bit of someone always comes in. There's always a touch because it's always them. You can't just that level of dissociation is just not possible, other than in the mentally ill. So there's always a touch of him, and you can kind of see that in Feldman's performance, which gives it a nuance I think I wouldn't have been aware of, if I'd seen this before, knowing what I know.
Well, you should give lectures at film schools. That was a good lesson.
Yeah,
it was like a good pep talk. New actors, and they're like, "Okay, I'm worried about not being able to fully immerse myself," and then you give that spiel. And at the end of it, they're like, "I'm going to give it my fucking best."
Yeah,
absolutely.
And I would really like to see with some of these actors that have been wronged and have dealt through a lot of tragedy in their careers make a resurgence. I know Brendan Fraser recently, because he got cast in the Martin Scorsese film Leonardo DiCaprio.
Is that crazy?
And all of a sudden his career is starting to blow up again because people finally realize what has been going on with him. And he's a super nice guy. The video of him crying when he found out people were excited.
That broke my heart because I love Brendan Fraser. He is so awesome.
Exactly. He didn't deserve any of that stuff that happened to him. And so maybe Corey Feldman could go through something like that. And a couple of these actors, I would love to see them all of a sudden become just getting couple big roles, get their career going right back in the right direction. And maybe they end on a high note.
Right. Aaron Ray says, it's sad anytime you see someone is given their all and everyone around them is failing them. Yeah, it hurts. But, the strength that they display in that, pushing through and fighting it with every ounce of their being, that's intense stuff. It's crazy. And, like Brendan Fraser fighting through tooth and nail to get through there. And still, his emotional reaction when he finds out how much his fans really and truly love the man. That they still do. After all, it doesn't fucking matter because Brendan Fraser is the man. Corey Feldman is the man. I have a great respect for him. I really, really do. And maybe we'll see the same thing. Who knows? But we've been chatting about this for a bit. I want to ask all of the live chat. So it doesn't have to be a horror movie. But we're going to go back. We're going to go way back in the Wayback Machine. And I probably know the answer to this, but I want to hear, because some people may surprise you. Some of our audience may surprise us. I want to know, what is your favorite Corey Feldman film? That's it. Doesn't have to be a horror movie, doesn't feel like that, but I'm just curious. We're going to have some Corey Feldman love. What is your favorite Corey Feldman movie? Let us know in the live chat or down in the comments below or at weekinhorror@gmail.com. All right. Commander Darklight, it's hard to soar like an eagle when you're surrounded by turkeys. Oh, definitely. All right. So let's jump along. Now, we're out of the swamp and into the super creeptacular. I'm so glad I got to give this one to you, Eugene. Take it away. What's our next one?
Our next one, a complete 180 into a delicious miniseries. It's called Salem's Lot, which premiered November 17th, 1979. And it was directed by Toby Hooper. And it stars David Soul, James Mason, Lance Kirwan, Bonnie Bordella, and Lou Ayres. I think I got the last one right. And basically,
Bonnie Bedelia.
Oh, Bonnie Bedelia. And so basically you have the main character, David. He returns back to his town of Salem, Maine, and starts realizing a lot of fucked up shit happens. And you have some fucking scary vampires start coming out.
Mm-hmm.
Some actual scary. This is not your Twilight Interview with the Vampire. This is your fucking scary Nosferatu style vampires that come out and fuck shit up. And shit gets real.
There you go. I got to say, I went back and I watched this the other night. It'd been a long time since I'd seen it, and I wanted to rewatch it again. And I was like, goddamn, 1979 for a television miniseries? This was fucking impressive. You consider that. And not to mention, I love going back and seeing actors, who you know today, but many of them have passed. But you go back and you see them when they're young. Fucking George DeZunda? Holy shit. I totally forgot he was in this. I used to see him on like Law and Order, but I was like, holy shit, George DeZunda? Fucking Fred Willard was up in this bitch?
It takes you a second, too, because you're looking at it and you're like...
Fred Willard had a six-pack? You're blowing my mind! But... just a host of fantastic actors, great stuff. Actors that everybody knows. You saw them, you know them in a heartbeat. Bonnie Bedelia, obviously, she was in Evil Things, another Stephen King adaptation. She was also in, she was John McClane's wife in the Die Hard series. But yeah, just all these fantastic actors. And I was like, damn, this is 1979, and they pulled off essentially what The Stand did, for its television adaptation. This thing was fucking amazing and innovative. The shit that Hooper pulled off.
That's the thing, though, is this time period. You're saying, miniseries. There wasn't very many, and when they were, they sucked. And so you get this, and you get something in this. When you're talking about real scary vampires, they took a form of vampire that really hadn't been used. You got all the Hammer horror stuff, the traditional kind of Dracula stuff. And then they bring in like this Nosferatu-esque, terrifying, actually scary, creepy, imposing vampire that was like, fuck. Like you were saying, that's all you get when you get like done with the first episode. You're like, holy shit. Okay, let me take a breath. Episode 2, what the fuck?
Dude, I love it when it goes from it's like creepy suspense, a handle like this, and then it's like all that's done. That fucker comes through the kitchen window like goddamn Jason.
And the acting in that scene too was fantastic because everybody was just fucking petrified. They're like, "Oh."
That motherfucker's like,
what do I
come
say?
at me, bro.
Knocks the cross down. Yeah, dude. The whole thing was just fucking fantastic. But it was something that you hadn't seen before in a miniseries, let alone even in a movie. Even if this was just a movie, it would have been fantastic. But the fact that they pulled this off as a TV miniseries in the 70s was unheard of.
And it was pretty brilliant when knowing things that they know. Some of the cool stuff they did on this one. And two of the things that really stood out to me is before this, vampires typically to get the whole like flying in effect like that, work was done with wires. And it was very much in Hooper's mind that you could always see the wires. That no matter what, no matter how clean a production you're trying to make, the technology just wasn't there at the time. You could always somehow see them. There's always a shot where you can tell that they're being suspended. It breaks the suspension of disbelief, and you're like, whatever. But then you go and you watch this, and you're like, who was it? He was saying, what was it? I saw someone mention Commander Darklight. Let me in, Michael. So scenes like that. Oh, Ivy Gentry says, "Okay, ignore me. I don't like Stephen King. None of it worked for me." That's about it. But there's some people who don't like his style. Yeah. But I thought this was neat, production wise. Instead of doing the wires to have the vampires, because that was a very difficult shot. You have the vampire outside the window, and this happens a couple of times. Not to mention the fog effect was really fucking cool. And so you have the vampire like there outside the window, scratching at the window and everything. But there were obviously no wires. Very obvious, because you've got to keep the camera on them because they got to do this and set the scene, set the tone. They swooped up the actors in on a boom crane, which I thought was just awesome to get them in and get that shot, and worked so beautifully.
I want to be there. I want to be there for shit when they do this for the first time. When the director's like, "Hold on, wait a fucking second. What about that boom crane outside?" And the guy is like, "Yeah, okay. How are we going to hook me up to it?" He's like, "I would just tie a rope around your waist." He's like, "Do I have to sign a waiver?" Like,
so I thought that was just brilliant, pulling that off. That was just a stroke of genius. Tobe Hooper, directed Texas Chainsaw Massacre. He was there, Poltergeist as well, and with Steven Spielberg, but Poltergeist as well. And I love that that level of innovative thinking came to this, because it was this kind of thing, because this is made for television. No blood, no gore, no nothing.
Right.
This is 1979 network television, so there wasn't going to be anything like that. So you've got to really showcase your stuff. And the other thing that got me, they invented glow-in-the-dark contact lenses for this movie to get the eye effect. And it was brand new, and the actor, especially the Kurt, because it was Barlow, could only wear them for 15 minutes at a time, because you have to take him out, let his eyes rest. So you pop him in, we got to shoot, get the shot, take him out, 15 minutes at a time, take him out, let his eyes rest, and then go back and do it again. So, brilliant stuff. Great vampire creation. Really enjoyed. Everything was great. Yes, sarcasm's right. It was atmosphere and tension, where they shot, the look of the Marston house, the air, Maine looked fantastic. And I love the fact they were able to touch on the interpersonal relationships all around what was going on. It's everything. So it felt like a living, breathing town while this vampire today, and everybody is dying and turning into vampires and shit.
And one of the things that I really commend about it when I was sitting there rewatching is noticing their use of light and shadow on it to really sell this atmosphere, because even a lot of modern films are really contrasty, but in terms of a lot of the hard shadow use, it's not there. So when you have the vampire at the window and then the kid's laying in bed and you see the shadows from the window across his face, usually you shoot the light through what we're calling a cookie, just a wooden cutout. So, but having that effect of having the windows when they're going down the hallways, having just the use of things affecting light beyond just atmospheric, to me is what really sets us apart of a lot of other things that are shot at the time.
Right. So really, really solid production on this. I thoroughly enjoyed, going back and revisiting this. I don't think it could have been done. This was spot on. It very much brought feelings like going back and watching the CBS miniseries of The Stand, not the new one, but the original one in 1994, because that was pitch perfect. Everybody in there was perfectly cast, just like in this one. Everything was perfectly cast. It had it felt like Vampire. Remember the movie Vampire we talked about?
Yeah.
It had it kind of some of that same kind of things working for it, because that's what you got to do for television. But this being a Stephen King novel and being a miniseries, we have plenty of time to shoot stuff. Made it all the better. I loved the lead up to it. I loved the one of my favorite scenes, I have to admit, is the scene in the truck when they're hauling Barlow in, and like the crate in the back is like moving closer to the cab, and the one guy's like, "Okay, look, dude, this fucking thing is moving." The other dude's like, "I'm just driving. I don't even want to know. I don't care. I'm just shut up. Let's just get there and get it done, and we get it."
I was hired to drive this thing one place. That's what I'm doing. Don't fucking talk to me.
I wasn't paid to see shit. And I'm not paid
to drive.
I'm only paid to drive. Rule number 1: you never look at the package.
Never look at the package.
That was it. Was like I didn't see shit because I ain't paid to see shit. But I love it. And that's what's fantastic when you get actors of this caliber, because they were these are a good assortment of TV actors that made up this cast. And still like blown away by Fred Willard with a 6-pack. That just kind of like that threw me. I was like, holy shit, it's Fred Willard. I know him. He's God damn, that fucker's in shape. That was like, holy shit. But yeah, and something that was cool that I kind of want to go over is the influence and legacy of this film. Yeah, obviously you have Kurt Barlow influenced by Nosferatu. They decided to go with the Nosferatu look, bald head, the claws and everything, and it's like the big teeth, the fangs. And I dug that. I liked the influences, the influence of F.W. Murnau on the film. I thought that was cool. But this film itself, the miniseries, influenced so many others. And you see them, like obviously the kid at the window, scratching at the window. Let me in, Michael. And then, of course, Buffy the Vampire Slayer used that with David Arquette talking to Luke Perry. Did the exact same scene over that, going, he's like, let me in. He's like, you're floating. Go home.
That was in Lost Boys too.
Yeah. And he was like, and then another one that got me, and it struck me as soon as I hit it. When Barlow comes through the window in the kitchen, boom. 30 Days of Night did that.
Oh no shit, yeah.
Dude came in through the window, landed on the ground, and did the slow rise up. 30 Days of Night grabbed it. So many things. I was like, I know that scene. I've seen that. I've seen so many scenes took from this in so many different ways, influencing. I was like, wow. I was quite impressed. How much this movie has influenced so many other filmmakers, and how many like little shots have been taken into other productions.
All right. Hey, if they fucking work,
Yeah, if they work, absolutely.
Well, that was actually one of the first lessons I was ever taught is like, what was it? Steal. Only if you're going to steal something, make sure it's something good. It was always like my film teacher, my mentor, Clark Lindsley, literally said, if you're going to steal something, make sure you steal some good shit. All right.
So don't steal from Voodoo.
If you steal bad shit, no one's gonna watch it. So steal good shit. And then of course, this was 1979, 1985. Fright Night also took a bunch from this one. So yeah, you've got films like Fright Night, Lost Boys, so like that. The Simpsons obviously ripped off this one a number of times. And I think there was the impalement on the deer antlers, taken in Lost Boys, and taken in the show Hannibal, because Brian Fuller saw that and was like, I fucking love that. That's why he had that scene in Hannibal, because he was like, oh, that's amazing. I got to do that for the show. And of course, there you have it. So amazing stuff. And then of course, Larry Cohen, who we talked about, who directed and wrote Q, The Winged Serpent. He's the one who did the sequel to Salem Slot. So a return to Salem Slot. So, yeah, epic vampire movie. So, fucking amazing. Let me see. Oh, yeah, we got some love for 30 Days of Night. That which can be broken must be broken. Yes, right. Yeah, 30 Days of Night, love there. Charlie Will says, love 30 Days of Night. Mm-hmm. Travis Brown says, there's a vampire movie called Let the Right One In. Correct.
Yeah, excellent movie. About that.
I prefer that one over the American remake with Chloe Moritz. I prefer the original. I thought that one was just
It's the
kind
2008 one, right?
Yeah, it's a bit more arty. It's a bit more artsy than the American remake, but I liked it. The arts and the artfulness of it was Norwegian, wasn't it? It was Norwegian?
I thought it was French or Dutch.
Swedish. European.
Yes.
The European one was so much better. I love the style because I also dig that European filming. They know how to capture, that kind of.
It is Swedish.
Swedish. I thought so. And Sarkaz says that's what makes slasher so good. You're not supposed to care about the victims, just revel in the kills. So who's talking about? If you don't. Oh, Sarkaz. Oh, Aaron Ray says if you don't give a damn about the victims, the terror just isn't there. You just start wanting to see them dead. Yes, and that is why that works with slashers. But that was good with this because I was invested. I liked Mike's journey. I liked the journey of his friend, his teacher, his writing mentor, who's kind of the Van Helsing of the story. Got the Van Helsing and the Josh and the Josh Hartnett, fucking Jonathan Harker. I don't know where my brain went with that one. And the Harker of the story, and then of course the priest, the betrayal of the priest. Which is really, really cool. And of course, if you're familiar with King's work, the story of Father Callahan continues on beyond Salem's Lot.
Well, I mean, he brings up a good point because when it comes to horror films, you're not scared for your own well-being in a horror film. You're scared for your characters. So you have to establish and make you care about the characters. So when the characters are afraid or where they're threatened, you fear for them because you don't want to lose that character.
Right.
On it.
Oh, Aaron Reed says, good artist copy, great artist steal. Yes, Raven Rose, good to see you. Thank you so much for joining us. Says, I prefer the original, let the right one in. Also, that stark, chilly, Swedish atmosphere of the movie makes it even more amazing.
It is. It just feels cold the whole time.
Right. Aaron Reed says, please don't bring up Harker after the Keanu discussion last week. Yes, because we talked about Bram Stoker's Dracula last week, and he was the Jonathan Harker, the tool of the story is kind of what he was. But yeah, and of course, the original Let the Right One In, so amazing. God, that climax when the bullies are holding them underwater, and the way they shot that, where all the action is going on above the pool. And you don't really see what's going on. That's some inspired filmmaking right there. When she was running across the water, and I was like, "Holy shit!" But you don't see it, just that like that, and then just like fucking bodies. And I was like, "Oh shit!" I was like, I like not seeing it. Just being, he wasn't even aware. Eyes closed. He's underwater. He doesn't know what's going on, but fucking heads are rolling. Like literally, the head gets thrown in the pool.
Because you can't beat the imagination,
right?
You just can't. So you just hear screams and tearing flesh and all this other kind of stuff. Your mind fills in the blanks, and it's just like, oh.
And from underwater, hearing their screams, but underwater.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like
muffled. Yeah.
Well, because she comes across the water and then she drags that fucker. I was like, damn, she is fucking some shit up. But, that's why I love that. I love that scene. But yeah, this was a great one. The Salem's Lot adaptation was fantastic. And in kind of addendum to this, I strongly recommend, if you enjoyed the Salem's Lot miniseries, definitely check out the miniseries Chapel Wait, which tells the story of the town that's literally the nearby town to Jerusalem's Lot or Salem's Lot. So the town is Jerusalem's Lot. And so there's a story, the story Chapel Wait talks about the town of Chapel Wait, which is literally the nearest town to Jerusalem's Lot, and how the vampires originally came to Jerusalem's Lot around the turn of the century that's how the whole thing got started. And then connected to the Boone family in a nearby town. It's a brilliant team. It stars Adrian Brody. Fantastic film or fantastic miniseries. It's 10 episodes long. I don't think they're going to continue it, but it's a little slow in the beginning, but it builds up great. It builds up fantastically. So really, really good stuff. And Tony Regime says, Weekend Horror, how about Salem's Lot versus Midnight Mass?
Did you guys watch Midnight Mass?
I did. I binged it. Fuck yeah.
Yeah,
that may be something we have to think about.
Okay. Two different stories.
Have you dug into any of the lore for Midnight Mass, though?
A bit. I mean, I know what Flanagan was trying to do there. The story he was trying to tell was, comparative to the spread of religion, and he was drawing parallels between the two. I see what's going on, but the idea of Barlow is essentially just the predator infecting, a vampire doing what a vampire does. Whereas this one was somebody mistaking it for something else.
But it was kind of the same concept on both. If you're looking at the vampire's point of view, it was the same thing. Just like religion, there he was trying to turn people into what he was.
Yeah, that vampire came off as more of an animal, right?
It was very vampire-esque. His blood gave powers.
Yeah.
It follows. I think it would be hard to come up with enough on that particular villain at this point in time since it's so new. But, I don't know.
Right.
Not a bad idea.
Yeah,
interesting.
We'll keep it on the table.
Both excellent series. Midnight Mass was phenomenal. Wow, that series was so fucking good. And take it easy, Mr. Andrad. Thank you for stopping by. You have a good one. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Aaron Race, the church lady, was the Predator in Midnight Mass. Oh, I haven't hated a character like that in a while.
Dude, seriously.
Fuck that bitch. And I use those words in very rare circumstances. I hated her my
wife was standing in the kitchen and I was watching it in the living room and I hear her from the kitchen go, I fucking hate that bitch.
Oh, I hate her. Oh, I couldn't stand her. Oh,
yeah,
shit.
Dude, that was terrible. She was the fucking worst. But hey, that's what makes a great fucking actor.
That's true.
Right.
That's very true. So I want to ask the audience, should there be a remake of Salem's Lot? Because it came out in 1979. I don't know. Are they actually trying to remake one?
Well, you got Salem's Lot, and then you had a Return to Salem's Lot, which came out in 87,
Mm-hmm.
and then you had a remake, which is starring Rob Lowe, which came out in 2004 on TNT, and was not great.
That sounds terrible.
It was not great.
You said Rob Lowe. You didn't have to say anything else.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah.
Rob Lowe is good. Rob Lowe is fantastic. He's a good actor. It was just a very, very lackluster production. Nobody was very interested in it. And apparently Rutger Hauer made it a very bad production just because he didn't want to memorize his lines and shit. So, but yeah, that was just bad. But yes, you are correct. James Wan is producing, and the guy, Gary Dauberman, who wrote It and It Chapter 2, is penning the remake for New Line Cinema of Salem's Lot, theatrical release.
Was it New Line Cinema?
Mm-hmm.
Are they doing is it going to be like a series, like a part 1 and part 2, or just one film? Or
don't know. Just know, as it was announced in 2019, that a theatrical film based on the novel would be made with Gary Dauberman and James Wan producing, and Dauberman wrote the screenplay for It and It Chapter 2. And Gary Dauberman is directing. So James Wan producing from the Conjuring series and from Saw, and then of course Dauberman, who wrote It and It Chapter 2, will be directing the film, and he was confirmed April of last year. So that's most likely in production now, or about to enter production. So yeah, it's getting made. So the question, I guess, this will be the second remake of this.
I have mixed feelings on it. I think people should focus more on great stories that have bad movies and then remake those.
Good point.
On it versus things that are already good, and then you're just trying to remake something good
to be cash grab. Yeah,
but it could be good. I don't know.
I'm going to stick this in the basket with the Firestarter and Christine remakes, and I'm gonna set it over here and suspend judgment. I'm going to suspend judgment until they come out. Be like, I don't know. We're gonna put it over here in the I don't know basket. That's where I'm gonna put it.
We'll see.
Sarcasm says, yeah, there was a remake and it sucked, not in the good way. Aaron Reese says, remakes of good movies almost always fall flat because it takes a combination of time and current events, technology, and so many other factors to make the original magic. Very true.
True.
That's true.
But then again, the original It, the miniseries, had its moments. 1990,
Still relevant to the movie, though. The
Tim Curry fucking wrecked it.
Yeah,
I mean,
there's a good point. Current events, technology, and so many other factors. With the series, it was so close to the original movie. We're so far away from when Salem's Lot was made that it could, you would have to work in to catch the interest of today's audience. You'd have to look into like current events and modern stuff, and that might actually take away from the feel of the movie. Exactly, the original magic. It worked because of the chemistry on set. It worked on, because the people that were involved in everything, the camera, the set design, everything clicked. And so to find that same kind of mesh with people now in a modern world, different story, same story, different time, I don't know, it could be really difficult. Like you said, put it in the basket, suspend judgment, and see what happens.
See.
Right. Tony Regime says if it's the same writer as the remake of It, then it will be all the tropes from classic films jammed into the Salem's Lot story. Quite possible. Travis Brown says if the next Salem's Lot remake is as good as It from 2017, I will definitely watch it. Wrote it no last name, says put it in the interested but hesitant basket.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, but let us know what you think in the comments below or at weekinhorror@gmail.com.
All right. Alex, finish us off.
Phrasing.
I was going to say take us home, but yeah.
I guess we're not doing phrasing.
It works.
So I was trying to figure out how, because our episode or our movies always just end up tying into each other somehow. I was trying to figure out how this one was going to go into it, and JL, you tied it together. So we had Beyond the Darkness with the Voodoo doll, and then Voodoo, and then you get into Salem's Lot, which kind of has to do, if you're looking to vampire lore, like Resurrection. And then I was like, how the fuck are we going to bring this home? And then you fucking mention Chloe Moritz.
Mm-hmm.
And that brings us to our last movie. Wicked Little Things came out November 17th, 2006. This movie was directed by J.S. Cardone, written by Boaz Davidson and Ben Nadivi. This one starred Laurie Hearing, Scout Taylor Compton, and Chloe Grace Moretz, alongside Jeffrey Lewis as well. This movie had his family move into a small town in Pennsylvania where a mine accident had happened in 1913 that trapped a bunch of kids underground, and they find out that there's a problem. They are still alive. So, this movie with the cast, and then what JL told me about it before I watched it, and then watching this movie, I was actually pleasantly surprised.
Right. So I gotta give it to the production on this one. Now, first and foremost, we could say that this film itself was released as a part of the first cycle of the After Dark Horror Fest 8 Films to Die For.
Yes.
So some time ago, I think this was I can't remember what year the very first one was in. I really, really loved the After Dark Horror Fest. So the 8 Films to Die, yes, first in 2006. So 2006, this movie comes out as a part of the 8 Films to Die For series, a collection of films that were selected by After Dark, to be part of their big horror fest. And this is essentially how After Dark was beginning to build their catalog. And then the After Dark Horror Fest ended. I think less than a decade later, it ended. There was like 4 After Dark Horror Fests, and then it ended and those movies became After Dark Originals, which became the acquisition arm for movies of this this kind of this production value. And they were really good at selecting. There were some fantastic movies that made it into the After Dark Horror Fest. Really good production value. Some of them not so much, but a lot of them were very good. These were movies like Mulberry Street and the Many Deaths of Ian Stone and a number of other really, really good ones. Borderlands, shit like that came out of this. And so first and foremost, I really dug that for just going, part of the Horror Fest. Really good production value, because this movie, despite, zombie kids, this movie was creepy as fuck. And the atmosphere was perfect on this one. Found out because they shot this thing in the mountains of Bulgaria. So
That
that
just
kind of
sounds scary.
yeah, the kind of like rural, deeply forested areas that you'll be able to just I don't even really know if any places like that exist in the States. But they went overseas to shoot this bad boy, and man, I really love the production value on this thing. The atmosphere setting alone, working outside has its own level of challenges, dealing with natural light, especially dealing in a forest. Try having a crew moving through a forest while you're trying to get a shot. It can be yeah. So, but I loved what they did, and sometimes you got to go overseas to really get that really good stuff. But I enjoyed, just from a filmmaking standpoint, I really dug it in that respect. I like the little things brought to the production.
Sorry, my entire garage just shook. We're starting to get that storm that you had.
Oh, it's coming down there. Nice.
Yeah, I guess so.
On it, I actually wish they brought the series back. The ability to showcase a group of horror films that people would have to kind of go out and seek, and actually be able to put them together, so you can showcase some of these films that don't necessarily get the marketing, don't necessarily get the publicity of, say, some of the big name horror films get, where you can go and like, hey, let's just watch a couple of these, a little bit shorter ones, but you can watch a couple of these, and a lot of some are great, some are not so much, but they're always kind of enjoyable to watch. You never really feel like you're going to be like, oh, well, this is just terrible, I'm wasting my time. The bad ones are just kind of funny on it. But you talk about going into this, where he talks about the mining accidents.
Yes.
Mines are dangerous. One of the most dangerous places to work. You are so deep underground, the weight of the earth that's on top of you, and there's so many little things that can go wrong, and people die. And so we start looking at, I can't remember when the accident took place is it like the 1913, something like that.
Yeah.
So this story was in the script, the children died, the zombie children that come back,
the zombie children,
that mercilessly eat people. They died in a mine collapse in 1913, and so that's what it said. And but the thing that got me, this is the one thing I think makes the movie stand out. People always catch it. The film states that it's based on actual events. Now, we have spoken before on this podcast how that term is very, very loose. Never take it as like obviously supernatural zombie children going out eating people. This never occurred. So, but I was curious, what the hell was true about this?
Right.
So I went back and I looked, and I kind of wish I didn't. And the reason for it is because this movie, I had to go back. What happened? Did something happen in 1913 with children dying in a mine? So I went back and looked, and like I said, I kind of wish I didn't. Stretching back into the mid 1800s, all the way up till the 70s, it's an exhaustive list, and it's very sad. This was a common thing.
Yeah,
I think I found a website that lists out every single mining accident or disaster that resulted in the death of children that were 17 years and younger. It is way too long. And kind of like disheartening. It's like, wow.
It's just absolute tragedy. And the fact that they made this movie about this was like, and having people look back into it, there's so much more horror just in the story behind this movie than in the movie.
Aaron Reese brings up so many movies use Ed Gein as their based on a true story source. Right. The Plainsfield Butcher, or I think is what they called him, but the Butcher of Plainsfield. Ed Gein, the guy who murdered people, dug up women's bodies and shit, and a real life serial killer. And of course, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Hannibal Lecter, a number of other people had their Buffalo Bill, not Hannibal Lecter, but Buffalo Bill from Silence of the Lambs. Number of other killers who, the idea of taking people's faces and wearing them shit, all comes from pretty much Ed Gein. From that real life serial killer. So I get taking inspiration from that. And it was just kind of like tragic. So I thought it was going to be more along the lines like The Strangers, the director of The Stranger said that, that event was based on actual events. And I was like, that's scary because that's something that could actually happen. People just, randomly targeting people for murder. When in actuality, the story was he was at home, he got a knock at the door, and his porch light wouldn't work. And there was a girl standing there asking if somebody was there. He's like, sorry, that person doesn't live here. And then the person went away, and then that was it. The next morning, he found out that there were a number of break-ins in the neighborhood. And what he thinks what was happening was that was essentially the recon. That was the scout going out and knocking on doors to see who would answer. And if anybody answered, they wouldn't break into that home. If nobody answered, that's how you knew someone was there. And so that's how you knew that was a prime target. And that's what they were doing. And so that's what freaked him out. And so that's where the idea for The Strangers came from. But no, there was some really serious, freaky, history behind this of children dying in mines, and of course it's I'm pretty sure this probably took from the Knox mining disaster, which didn't happen in 1913, but the Knox mining disaster was when the Knox mining company illegally instructed their miners to dig into a certain area where they essentially dug up underneath a riverbed. And they dug far enough underneath the riverbed that the river collapsed, that the river broke into the mine field, into the mine shafts, killed I think, a number. I can't remember the number off the top of my head, but killed a number of people, injured a whole bunch of others, and just absolutely that disaster pretty much killed the mining, industry in Pennsylvania. That's what's pretty much put the nail in the coffin for the mining industry. That and Centralia incident.
I was sitting there, and I was looking, I just pulled up just mining disasters. And this is just 1913. You had one in United Kingdom. 439 workers died in one incident. 439, and then a week later, 263 workers were killed in another mining accident in New Mexico.
Wow.
I mean, this is a time through the Industrial Revolution was full swing, and there weren't the regulations that we have today. People were skirting around it. The laws just weren't there. You didn't have many of these being children, you didn't have the child labor laws. So you're working kids 16, 18 hours. Yeah. And if they're killed in a mine, they're just
right.
Oh, well, throw another kid in there and we'll keep going.
Travis Brown was saying this is before the banning of children being in those big jobs. Right. Yeah. That was, this was in time, these times like 1913 and before that, before child labor laws became a major thing. And, to protect kids from doing stuff like this, or doing extremely hazardous work. And a lot of kids were chosen for mines because kids could get into tight places. They were small and they could, they were capable of doing work that adults weren't able to do. And that was what was awful because, what really got me is that the vast majority of the deaths that took place in these mines of kids was not really collapses or cave-ins or anything of that nature. There's plenty of those. It was mostly kids having nowhere to sleep, so they slept on the tracks so they wouldn't have to sleep with their faces in the coal. So they slept on the tracks and they were hit by mine carts.
Yeah.
So knowing this and researching this put a different spin. Now I think, and that was what I think what got me is the inspired by true events. Sometimes you got to know what was going on, what it's inspired by, to really get the heaviness of what the director is trying to, or what the writer is trying to convey. That's what was important, because now, even though it is a zombie children movie, like this, I get where they're coming from. This tragic event is a thing that legitimately happened, and it grounded the film a little bit for me, and I can see the inspiration because I'm now aware of the history of this. So I always recommend, when you see that, because we're so desensitized, what's your first reaction when you see that, based on a true story or based on actual events? What's your first reaction?
I'm always kind of like, about it, just because it's the genre. If you're going to give me a history biopic based off true story, I get excited about it because most history biopics are true stories. Because biopic. But when you go into the horror genre, it's like based off a true story, more often than not, it has to be pushed towards the horror genre in some kind of way, which once you start adding liberty on your storytelling, there's no telling how much liberty you're going to add to it.
Right.
Here's the thing, though. When I see that, it based on a true story, all that you need to have in there is something that's slightly relatable to a true story. So you could be like Ed Gein, but like you could do based on a true story and then do a movie about the ghost of Ed Gein. You know, like if it's based on like a person, then you could be like based on a true story. So unless you got the time to sit and actually like do the research before you watch the movie, you're not going to get like, you're either going to get, okay, I did the research, I know what happened and it was close and I enjoyed it, or I did the research, this is nothing like what actually happened, and then be pissed off about it. So it's like you got to take the chance, if you know the story, of being disappointed by the movie. Because like I'm really big into, I did true crime when I was growing up, and that led me into a love of like serial killer, like the minds of serial killers. So I've done a lot of research on serial killers. So when I see like a movie or like a TV show that's like, you know, a dramatization of like the person's life, and it's just completely off with facts, it pisses me off and I don't ever want to watch it again, because it's like, this is stupid. None of this is true. Like, here's the actual research. Like, just Google it and make it at least a little accurate. So you never know. You know, it's like if they do a good job telling the story they're trying to tell, good on them. But if they take it and they turn it into something that's totally whack, like,
yeah.
Because with this, you can be like, based on true events. Mines collapsed. Yes. Here's a story of a mine collapsing. Okay, you kept it general and broad enough that it wasn't based on one particular mine collapse, and I can get behind that.
Yeah, Sarkaz says my brain always adds. Sarkaz said my brain always adds loosely to based on a true story, and generally it is. I just, this one was, it kind of hit me a little bit differently. Once I was, you know, keenly aware of the history behind this, it's like, I see what you were trying to get at there, and yeah, and then of course, you know, so we have this tragic stuff that I was like, wow, I'm now keenly aware of the tragedy behind this, the inspiration behind this. Oh, but now, you know, now the children are zombies and they're eating people, and it's gross and graphic, and of course, you know, you got zombies. You're right. And then you got Laura Hearing, Chloe Grace Moritz now, because she was, yeah. And then, of course, Scout Taylor Compton. Oh, Scout.
Oh, Scout.
God. I have such a crush. Ever since, not just Halloween, but the Runaways, you know, she was great. I just, well, I mean, both Halloween films, she was fantastic. The Runaway, she was good. Ghost House, I thought she was fantastic. She's just always fun to watch. I enjoy watching her on screen, and yeah, I have a tiny little crush. Tiny little crush. Just a little bit. Just a little. If she ever comes text Friday weekend, I guarantee I'm getting her autograph. So
yeah, of course.
Tony Regime, yes, kind of. First, second, third season.
So I want to ask this. So I know that this, Alex, I know you're looking at the CTA, and I know that this is complicated.
I was trying to wait. I was trying to wait for you to kind of merge into something that I could use. But
this was a big thing. This was a big major thing, and I want to ask this because this is where this is kind of off, but it goes back to the Horror Fest. And Eugene was talking about, we'd like to see kind of like the bringing back of the Horror Fest. It's really, really cool. The opportunity it gives people is really, really neat. But this is something I want to kind of throw to the audience. And this gets a little bit complicated before we jump to the trivia question for tonight. I know that everybody's waiting for it. So the Horror Fest itself is a film festival where After Dark was putting it on and attracting bringing filmmakers in. You know, they select their movies. There's 8 films to die for. It gets their names out there. This is fantastic exposure. It gets automatic distribution, to DVD. And so, boom, you got a good movie. It could really send your career soaring. If you're an actor and you put in a really solid performance, boom, the accolades could be great. But then again, they could not be, because just because it's packaged and distributed doesn't mean if it's not good product or it doesn't really hit, you're not in control of that distribution. You're not in control of how it goes out because, as a lot of people probably don't know, in these situations, the production company that's putting on the festival retains the rights to the films. Mm-hmm. Essentially, you sign the film to them, and they take the bulk of the lion's share on the risk. You may see a small, if any, pittance on it. Sometimes you don't see anything. But you put it out there, and they're taking all the risk. You don't have to self-distribute. You don't have to try and sell it to anybody. You don't have to go to Con or TIFF or anything like that to try and sell this thing off, or Sundance. You give it to them, they select it, they put it in there, and they handle everything else. But you don't get to, the accolade. You don't get the return on investment, because going to the film festival is part of the investment on that.
Not financially. I mean,
It does.
Your name's on it.
Right. But your name is on it.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's a risk there for both the filmmaker and the production company. However, the production company is also padding their catalog with films that they are not producing.
Right.
So when After Dark was up and coming and really starting to really gain ground, they have the Horror Fest. Movies come in. They did the Horror Fest 4 times. That's 8 movies each. 8 movies. This is a decent little back catalog. You can release them as box sets. You can release them individually. You can do behind the scenes stuff because you have the rights to the film automatically. Your catalog is backed up. You have good directors coming in, which is top notch because we got to get it in the Horror Fest. That's why you get actors like top notch actors that have been in these things. Really good production value horror films. The question that we wanted to ask the audience and get your opinion on this. Obviously, this is a movie. The movie making industry is a business. People are in this to make money as much as it is to make art. This kind of tactic, the film festival designed to pull films that they didn't make into their catalog that they control the rights of, is this thing the cost of doing business? Or is it capitalizing on other people's work so that you don't have to? So that they don't have to. Where's the line in that? Is there a line? Is there a consideration to be made? Or is this just the way it is and that's the way the model works? Kind of curious what our audience thinks of this when you look at it from a business standpoint as well as an art standpoint, not from just the fan standpoint. Because we have been in situations like this before where we've got this opportunity, but how much is the opportunity really ours? Do we have the clout to say, nah, we're going to pass on this opportunity? Like, are we just going to Drake it? Or are we going to be like, yeah, we're going to take it? Drake it or take it? You like what I did there? So I'm kind of curious what people think, what the audience thinks of this. Do our filmmakers is this the cost of doing business? Or is this filmmakers being taken advantage of? Regardless of their name, these production companies getting movies that they didn't produce to add to their back catalog because their name is attached to it because they're the ones that oversaw the release. Distribution rights, full distribution rights.
They're the ones that want all the big money.
Exactly.
Yeah. But that's fine. If you look at it from the entire big picture, yeah, the film festival idea is great because you've got these artists that want to get their work out there. 90% of the people that I know that have done short films just want their art to be made. They're not looking to make a big career off of it, or at least they're not expecting it to blow up. So if you've got this opportunity to make this movie, hey, we'll take all the risk on it, but we're going to take a big chunk of the change. Your name's on it, so we have to give you 5% of the proceeds or whatever the number is that they're like, we have to give you this much, but we're going to take it. Most true artists are going to look at that and be like, yeah, no, I get to make my art and maybe it gets out to the right person. Maybe it doesn't. Either way, I'm going to make another piece of art after this one. It seems like the opportunity would be great for up and coming filmmakers. And in a society that we live in now where, the lost art of filmmaking is starting to go into a digital era, which kind of takes away from a lot of people's jobs in the film industry, but also adds unique opportunities and new creative minds. I think it would be a really cool thing to kind of bring back, or at least try out, be like, make it a big social media thing. Hey, we're looking for the best top 10 filmmakers in the United States. We'll put your movie out and see what you can come up with. Some of the best movies come from people who aren't looking for money. Right.
That's true.
Well, it's an interesting discussion, and I think could go on a lot longer. And I definitely want to hear what our live chat, or if you're listening to this later on your favorite podcast, what you think about this. A couple of comments here. So, and the George said, it says, it seems scummy, but the people who signed the rights away and participate in them are perfectly capable of saying no. Very true. Absolutely right. Tony Regime says it's a bit of both, but for the cast and crew of the film, it gives them the exposure and the possibility of better paychecks. Right. If you're a career crew guy, it's just, it's another one in the bank. Film. That's about quality. That's about quantity, not quality. Well, you want to do quality work, but you want to keep working. So it's just another one. Like, wow, okay, the atmosphere was fantastic. Look at the lighting and everything on this. I want that lighting guy, or I want that cinematographer. Aaron Reese says the in-person film festival circuit can be way more financially detrimental. You submit, pay for it yourself, and then you see nothing from that festival, all in the hope of getting noticed. That's the risk you take, the cost of doing business. But is there a better way? We're kind of curious. Let us know your thoughts on this subject in the comments below or at weekinhorror@gmail.com. We'd love to hear what you guys think.
Yeah, I'm really kind of curious because you can see both sides, because as upcoming filmmakers, you have to get your work in front of the right people, but also at the same time, it's like at what cost of it. And because with, say, the film festival circuit, you can pay $100 to get your film in a film festival and they don't accept it.
Right.
There are no refunds. They're just,
boom,
too bad.
Right.
On that. But at the same time, let's say you get into Sundance, you pay your $100, you get into Sundance, you have every major distributor that's there looking for the next coming filmmaker.
Boom.
On that.
Yeah.
So.
All right. So I think it is, look at that. Look at the time. It is about that time. It is trivia time.
It is.
Yes, it is. All right. So yes, the time that you all have waited, throughout this whole episode for, it is trivia time. So get those Google fingers ready. We are giving away a Shit Gets Real shirt. Yes, the Week in Horror limited edition number 4. The Shit Gets Real shirt in your chosen color. So that comes in red, blue, green, or black. So let us know. Whoever wins, let us know what color you wanted and your size if we don't have that information in our fan file yet. But here we go. Get those, get those Google fingers ready. Google fingers ready. And, you know what? What if I change it up?
Oh, what shit, last minute audible.
What if I just say, it is maybe an audible. What if I just say their choice of something out of the store?
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, just in case somebody already has that one shirt.
Right. How about this? Your choice of something out of the store.
Okay.
Even something out of print.
Ooh.
Because we have some limited edition shirts that are not available anymore.
True.
Yeah, let's do that. Even something out of print, anything from the store, even if it's in the vault. Let's do that. We'll give away that. Contact us, weekinhorror@gmail.com, or on the Discord, which the link is in the description. Hit us up in the Discord and let us know what you want out of the store, even if it's out of print. Just you hit us up, we'll discuss it, and we'll get that out to you ASAP. All right. I'm kind of excited about this. So here we go. Here we go. The trivia question for tonight.
Hey, before you do that, if I go down, it's because we're getting nailed. Can you hear that?
We can hear the rain.
Right. All right, here we go.
A minute ago.
Trivia question is, Beyond the Darkness was actually a remake of what Mino Guerrini horror film? We'll say it one more time. Beyond the Darkness was actually a remake of what Mino Guerrini horror film? Let us know in live. First one in the live chat.
Already?
Was that fast?
Already?
It hasn't even updated for me.
I got Travis Brown followed by Charlie Welch.
Damn. Chris Durham. Chris Durham said, Alistair Cook in the horror of documentaries. XSL. that's hilarious. Hang on a sec. Damn, that was fast. I'm going to just to be safe, I'm going to check. I'm going to check the live chat just to double check. I want to make sure. You'll probably hear it here in a sec. I got to turn the volume down. There we go. And make sure we're on live chat. We're double checking. The judges are checking. We have, boom, yes, Travis Brown.
Brown.
Congratulations.
Confirmed? Congratulations, Travis Brown.
Congratulations, Travis.
All right, Travis Brown, you get your choice of something from the store, even if it's in the vault.
It's like when you get to go to the treasure box in school when you lose a tooth.
So hit us up, weekinhorror@gmail.com, or message one of us directly on Discord, and we will get with you, and we will set that up to get that shipped out to you. So just take a look on the Teespring. Link is in the description. Or if you want one of the old limited edition shirts, 1, 2, or 3, we got them there. So yeah, definitely. Let's see who else. We see some other ones. Travis Brown, he crushed that one quick. Charlie Welch got it. Aaron Reese got it. And the George said, "Oh God damn you!" And the George said, "I'm on my phone. Give me a chance." Aaron Reese says, "You could damn near time our internet connections by the speed of our answers." Damn straight.
That's true.
That was quick. That was damn fast. I think it was like almost no delay. But well done, Travis Brown. Congrats. Thank you so much. That was awesome. We will just message us. We will get that out to you ASAP. Oh, and he says, "Thank you, everyone," and I am thanking Wikipedia.
Nice.
Make sure you donate to them since they want to put those pop-ups on every fucking page.
Right.
Mm-hmm. I throw them $5. I use Wikipedia almost every day anyway.
I do as well. Yeah, I'm on there a lot. So.
Every once in a while. If my credit card information pops up automatically, I'm like, yeah, fuck it.
That's your cue.
So I think my internet connection is kind of ant right now. But anyways, that will bring another episode of Week in Horror to a close. Thank you all so much for listening. We loved having you, and we truly hope you enjoyed it. Join us next week when we look back at The Feast of Satan, Contracted, I Was a Teenage Frankenstein, and Wreck. We love to send a special shout out to our amazing patrons who have helped us make this show the success it has become. Thank you all so much. Also, be sure to check out Joshua Olsen's new store, www.badsamurai.store. Once again, that is www.badsamurai.store. Joshua does all the amazing artwork for our limited edition t-shirts, and he has some amazing new designs you will be sure to love. Visit us at weekinhorror.net, where you can find the links to all of our episodes, our bios, our merch store at Teespring, and of course, enter your email for a permanent entry to win a mystery horror shirt every month, courtesy of $6shirts.com. For more horror entertainment, be sure to check us out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Followers get our daily splatter, a bit of horror movie info every day, right to your feed. Please like, subscribe, and one-shot that bell like Jason Voorhees in a boxing match for all the latest updates from the show. And be sure to leave us a comment. The interactions really help us with the dreaded algorithm. And lastly, if you truly love what we do here and you would like and are able to support our production, you can through our Patreon. We have subscriber tiers as low as $1. Bonus and exclusive content and horror films every month for higher tiers. However, if you prefer, you can support our show through our PayPal as well. Links to everything, including our Discord community where you can find film recommendations, trailers, trivia games, horror watch parties, and even interact directly with us, are in the description below. And as always, sharing the show with your friends and your local horror community is the absolute best way to help us continue to grow. Thank you all so much for being the greatest audience a podcast could have. I'm Eugene.
I'm Alex.
I think his house about to blow away. And I'm JL.
We'll see you next week. And as always, stay scared.